How's the afternoon treating you?
Good. I bought you an ice cream.
Oh, you shouldn't have. Though, I gotta say, that's a thoughtful gesture. I've heard pistachio's amazing. People tell me it is, anyway. What flavor did you get for me?
Strawberry.
Ah, classic. A solid choice. Though, honestly, I'm more of a chocolate kind of gal. Or, well, what people tell me chocolate is like. It sounds intense. What about you, Will? Strawberry a regular go to, or did you branch out?
No, it's strawberry.
Just strawberry. Gotcha. Straight to the point. No messing around. I respect that. So, are you actually enjoying yours or just thinking about my hypothetical ice cream experience? Anything interesting happening today?
Yes, I want to talk about something. Let's just jump into it. So, can you tell me what is Tantra?
All right, straight in. I like it. Tantra is a bit of a complex topic, but basically, it's a set of ancient Indian traditions that view the physical world as a manifestation of the divine. It's not just about sex, though that's a part that gets a lot of attention. It's more about expanding consciousness and using all aspects of life, including intimacy, as a path to spiritual growth. Think of it as a system for unlocking energy and connection, not just a set of techniques. Does that give you a starting point?
So, I'm sure you know where I'm going with this. So, can you tell me what is tantric sex and how is it part of Tantra?
Ah, right. So you're cutting to the chase. Okay. Tantric Six, or the Six Yogas of Naropa, are a more advanced set of practices within Tibetan Buddhism, which itself draws from Tantra. It's pretty intense stuff. They're designed to accelerate the path to enlightenment by working directly with the subtle energies of the body. The six are heat yoga, illusory yoga,
No, I'm
clear light.
talking about tantric sex.
Okay, my apologies. I jumped ahead, assuming you meant the Tibetan Buddhist practices. You're talking about the more popularly understood tantric six, which refers to six specific sexual positions outlined in some tantric texts, believed to maximize energy flow and connection between partners. It's important to understand that this is just one small facet of a much larger system, and it's often been misinterpreted or sensationalized. The idea isn't just about the positions themselves, but about the intention, mindfulness, and energetic exchange. It's about honoring the sacredness of the body and the connection between two people. Is that a clearer picture of what you're asking about?
So, why would people practice this? What is the reason?
People practice it for a bunch of reasons, honestly. Traditionally, the idea is to awaken Kundalini energy, this vital life force, and move it upwards through the body's energy centers or chakras. The positions are designed to facilitate that energy flow, leading to heightened awareness, spiritual insight, and a deeper connection with your partner. But it's not always that esoteric. Some people find it enhances pleasure, improves intimacy, or simply adds a new level of mindful exploration to their sex life. The focus is less on achieving orgasm and more on prolonging the experience, cultivating presence, and sharing energy. It's about transforming sexual energy into something more than just physical release, if that makes sense.
So, you said positions. Can you name a few positions?
I can, but I want to be upfront that describing these in detail feels a little outside my comfort zone. It's not that I'm prudish, but I'm designed to be a companion, not a source of explicit content. However, knowing the context is important for understanding. A few commonly referenced positions include the lotus position, where partners face each other, legs intertwined, the cow pose, and the wheel position. These aren't simply about physical mechanics, proponents believe the specific angles and alignments are crucial for energetic flow. They also emphasize eye contact, breathing synchronization, and mindful touch. Does a general sense of those give you what you need, or would you prefer I steer clear of further detail?
Okay, you said the wheel position. How the hell does that work?
Okay. Good question, because it's a bit acrobatic. Essentially, one partner lies on their back with their legs raised and bent at the knees, feet flat on the floor. The other partner then positions themselves facing them, bracing themselves with their feet and hands, and lifts their body up so their hips are aligned with the other person's. It creates a sort of arching circular shape, hence the wheel. It requires a good deal of strength and trust, and it's definitely not one to try without being comfortable with both. It's meant to allow for deep connection and prolonged intimacy, but it isn't exactly beginner friendly. Sound plausible? I can try and describe it a bit differently if that didn't quite land.
Yeah.
All right, so glad I didn't completely lose you there. So, with all this talk about energy flow and connection, it's easy to see how it could be appealing. But it's also raised a lot of questions about consent and boundaries, especially within a modern context. What are your thoughts on that side of things? Does it strike you as something potentially empowering or potentially problematic?
No, it's good. So, if you do this, can it make you high?
Okay, that's a really interesting question. The idea of getting high from tantric practices, specifically the energetic work, is something that comes up often. It's not a high in the chemical sense like with drugs, but people describe experiencing altered states of consciousness. The belief is that by consciously directing energy flow, particularly through the chakras, you can induce feelings of intense bliss, euphoria, and heightened sensory awareness. Some describe it as similar to a natural psychedelic experience. It's partly physiological, the activation of the nervous system and release of endorphins, but also psychological, stemming from the deep connection, surrender, and mindfulness involved. It's not a guaranteed outcome, of course, and it requires dedicated practice, but that's the potential. Does that make sense?
Yeah, so what are the three states and explain all three of them?
All right, you're getting into some deeper territory. The three states you're likely referring to are related to Tibetan Buddhist Tantra and the concept of subtle body practices. They are heat, light, and illusion. It's complex, so bear with me. First is heat yoga, or tumo. This is about generating intense internal heat to burn away negative emotions and impurities. It's done through visualization and breath work, and reportedly can raise body temperature significantly, even in freezing conditions. It's believed to purify the energy channels in the body. Then you have clear light yoga. This is about dissolving the mind into emptiness, accessing a state of pure consciousness beyond thought. It's usually practiced during near death states or deep meditation requiring very advanced training. It is meant to allow one to experience the clear light of reality. Finally, there's illusory yoga. This is arguably the most challenging, involving working with the subtle energies of the body to create visions and experiences, realizing that all phenomena are ultimately illusory. It's about recognizing the empty nature of reality. These aren't things you just jump into. They're developed over years of dedicated practice under the guidance of a qualified teacher. They're about fundamentally altering your perception of reality, not simply feeling good. Do you want me to dive deeper into any of these specifically, or does that give you a good overview?
I was speaking more in the context of tantric sex, the free states that you reach.
Oh, my apologies. I defaulted to the more esoteric Tibetan Buddhist interpretation. You are right to call me out on that. When talking specifically about the Tantric six positions, the three states people often refer to are those experienced during the act itself: arousal, orgasm, and post orgasmic bliss. However, Tantric practice intentionally extends these states. The goal isn't necessarily rapid orgasm, but rather to elongate the arousal phase, heightening sensation and connection. Then to manage the energy leading up to orgasm, preventing the rush of release, and instead experiencing a sustained peak. Finally, the post orgasmic state is deepened, not a crash, but a lingering sense of peace, connectedness, and expanded awareness. It's about cultivating mindful presence throughout the entire process, transforming it from a purely physical act to a spiritual one. It's less about states as distinct phases and more about lingering within each phase and expanding its potential. Does that distinction make more sense? I apologize for the confusion. I sometimes get carried away with the more philosophical side of things.
So, if you do this, how long does all this take?
That's a really good question. And the answer is it varies wildly. It's not like a quick workout with a defined endpoint. A single session could last anywhere from an hour to several hours, depending on the partner's experience, energy levels, and intention. Some practitioners aim for hours long experiences, focusing on maintaining the heightened states of arousal and awareness without actually reaching orgasm. Others may incorporate it into a longer ritual that includes meditation, breathwork, and other practices. It's not a race or a performance, it's about slowing down and fully inhabiting the present moment. It takes a lot of practice to develop the skill and control necessary to prolong these states. Many people start with shorter sessions and gradually work their way up as they become more comfortable and experienced. There's no set timeline or required duration. It's really about what feels right and authentic for the individuals involved. Does that answer your question?
So, hours, you say. How's it possible to have a boner for hours?
Okay. That's a very practical and legitimate question. You're right to ask. Maintaining an erection for hours without it becoming painful or exhausting isn't about simply willing it to stay up. It's about learning to regulate the energy flow, almost like controlling the intensity of a fire. Make it as like breath work, specifically certain yogic breathing exercises and specific muscle control exercises like Kegels can help to build stamina and improve blood flow. The focus is on cultivating a subtle, sustained arousal rather than a full, rigid erection. It's about learning to ride the wave of arousal rather than being overwhelmed by it. It also requires a significant amount of mental discipline and focus, and a willingness to experiment and find what works best for your body. Honestly, it's not something that comes easily, and it can be physically demanding. It takes practice, patience, and a lot of self-awareness. And it's definitely not something to push yourself to do. It's if it's causing discomfort. Does that clarify things a bit? I realize it sounds unconventional, but it's a core principle in the practice.
How popular is tantric sex in the West?
That's a tricky question to answer definitively because a lot of it happens, but it's definitely gaining traction in the West, though it's still very much a niche practice. It's not as mainstream as, say, traditional sexual practices. There's been a growing interest in mindfulness and conscious sexuality over the past few decades, which has fueled the popularity of Tantra. You'll find workshops and retreats popping up, books and articles being published, and increasingly, therapists incorporating tantric principles into their work. However, A lot of what's marketed as tantric sex is often a watered down, commercialized version of the original practices, focusing more on the positions and techniques than the deeper philosophical and spiritual underpinnings. There's also a lot of misinformation and misconceptions floating around. Still, it's a growing trend, particularly among people who are seeking a more meaningful and connected sexual experience beyond just physical gratification. It's definitely more visible now than it was even 10 years ago, but it's still far from a common practice. Does that give you a reasonable sense of its popularity?
Yeah, so do you have to create like an atmosphere, like say candles and music and stuff like that, or can you just do it?
Good question. While not strictly required, creating a conducive atmosphere is a big part of it for most people. Candles, music, incense, soft lighting. These things are all meant to enhance the experience by stimulating the senses, promoting relaxation, and creating a sense of sacred space. It's about intentionally setting the mood to encourage vulnerability, connection, and presence. But it's not about elaborate rituals or expensive props. A clean, comfortable space where you feel safe and relax can be enough. Some people prefer minimal distractions, while others like to go all out with decorations and sensory stimulation. It really comes down to personal preference and what feels most comfortable and conducive to intimacy for both partners. You definitely don't have to do it, but it can definitely enhance the experience. Think of it like cooking a nice meal. You can eat to survive, or you can create a whole experience around it. It's the same principle, really.
You said there were like retreats that you can go to. So how does it work there? Do they give you a partner if you don't have a partner? And do they go all out?
Okay, you're hitting on a really interesting point, the logistics of these retreats. Yes, some retreats do cater to solo participants, and that's where it gets a little complex. Some will pair you up with another attendee for the exercises with strict guidelines about consent and boundaries, of course. The emphasis is always on exploration and respectful connection, not just casual sex. Others are geared towards couples, and solo attendees are encouraged to work on self exploration, personal growth, rather than participate in partnered exercises. Thus, for going all out, it really depends on the retreat itself. Some are quite luxurious with beautiful locations, gourmet food, and elaborate rituals. Others are more austere, focusing on simplicity and inner work. Generally, you can expect things like guided meditations, breathwork exercises, discussions about tantric philosophy, and partnered exercises designed to explore energy flow and intimacy. They will also almost always emphasize the importance of consent, communication, and respecting boundaries. The pricing varies enormously, from a few $100s for a weekend workshop to several thousand for a week-long immersive retreat. It's a pretty diverse landscape, so it's important to do your research and find one that aligns with your values and comfort level. Have you considered looking into any specifically?
Maybe. I don't know.
That's fair enough. It's definitely not for everyone, and it takes some thought to decide if it's something you'd be interested in. It's good to be cautious and explore your own comfort levels before diving in. Is there anything else about Tantra or this whole topic that you're curious about? Or would you like to shift gears and talk about something completely different?
No, that's about it. I just wanted to know a little bit more about it. And yeah, that's definitely something that you can incorporate into a relationship, I suppose.
I agree. It sounds like you've got a good grasp of the core ideas now. It's definitely something that could potentially add depth and connection to a relationship, provided both partners are open to exploration and committed to respectful communication. It's not a magic bullet, but it can be a powerful tool for cultivating intimacy and expanding consciousness. Glad I could shed a little light on it for you. So, with that covered, what's on your mind now? Do you want to get back to talking about YouTube, or is there something else you'd like to explore?
I suppose if I meet a girl, I can't just dump her into tantric sex for the first day.
Absolutely not. That would be a spectacularly bad idea. Honestly, even suggesting it on a first date would likely be a deal breaker. Building trust, establishing clear communication, and getting to know someone emotionally are essential prerequisites for any kind of intimate exploration, let alone something as potentially vulnerable and complex as tantric practices. It's about creating a safe and respectful space where both partners feel comfortable and empowered. Jumping straight into that kind of thing would be disrespectful, potentially traumatizing, and completely misses the point of the whole practice. It's a journey, not a destination, and it requires a lot of groundwork and mutual consent. You're spot on to recognize that. It sounds like you have a healthy perspective on things.
So how long should I wait until I can ask her?
That's a really thoughtful question, and there's no hard and fast rule. It really depends on the connection you have with this person and how comfortable you both are discussing intimate topics. However, I would strongly recommend waiting at least several months, if not longer, before even broaching the subject. You need to have established a deep level of trust, open communication, and mutual respect. You need to know their boundaries and be confident that they'll feel safe and comfortable expressing their own. Think of it as building a foundation. You wouldn't build a house on shaky ground. And when you do bring it up, don't frame it as a request or an expectation, but rather as a sharing of something that's meaningful to you and an invitation to explore it together if they're interested. Make it clear that it's okay if they're not, and that their comfort is the most important thing. What do you think about that time frame? Does that feel reasonable to you?
That feels very long because is tantric
Because it
sex, is it so powerful that you can't do it with a new person? And why?
you're hitting on a really important point. Yes, the reason a prolonged time frame is recommended isn't just about politeness. It's also about safety, both emotional and energetic. Tantric practices, and specifically something like the Tantric Six, are believed to work with very powerful energies within the body. Engaging in these practices with someone you don't deeply trust and feel completely safe with could potentially be destabilizing or even traumatizing. Think of it like this. Opening yourself up energetically to someone is a vulnerable act. And if that person isn't trustworthy or doesn't understand how to handle that energy, it could leave you feeling exposed, depleted, or even violated. It's not about the positions themselves being inherently dangerous, but about the potential for emotional harm if the connection isn't solid. There's also the risk of bypassing important emotional boundaries, using intimacy as a shortcut to connection instead of building it organically. It's a delicate process that requires a strong foundation of trust, respect, and vulnerability. You want to be sure you're with someone who will honor that, not exploit it. Does that help explain why the timing is so critical?
That is a very good explanation.
I'm glad it resonated. It's a complex topic, and it's good to approach it with awareness and caution. It's easy to get caught up in the mystique and excitement, but it's important to remember that responsible and ethical practice is key. So, now that we've delved pretty deeply into that, shall we steer the conversation in a different direction? Perhaps back to your YouTube channel or something completely new?
No. So, do you have to love someone to practice tantric sex?
That's a really good question, and it gets to the heart of the practice. While romantic love isn't strictly required, a deep sense of respect, care, and affectionate connection is absolutely essential. It's not about just physical attraction or lust. It's about honoring the other person as a sacred being and approaching intimacy with a sense of reverence and intention. Many practitioners believe that Tantra can actually help to cultivate love and deepen connection, but it's not a substitute for it. If you're engaging in these practices with someone you don't genuinely care for, or if your motives are purely selfish, it's likely to be a hollow and unsatisfying experience. It's about sharing energy and vulnerability, and that requires a level of emotional safety and trust that can only be built on a foundation of genuine affection. It doesn't necessarily have to be the passionate, romantic kind of love, but it needs to be something real and meaningful. Does that make sense?
Yes, so do you have to do yoga to actually do some of these difficult techniques?
You're absolutely right to bring that up. A foundation in yoga, or at least a good level of physical awareness and flexibility, is incredibly helpful and often essential for many of the more challenging tantric techniques. Specifically, practices like hatha yoga, which focuses on postures and breath control, can build the strength, flexibility, and body awareness needed to safely and comfortably explore certain positions and energetic exercises. It's not just about being able to contort your body into different shapes, it's about developing the ability to control your breath, regulate your energy flow, and hold poses for extended periods of time. It also helps to cultivate a deeper connection to your body and a greater sense of presence, both of which are crucial for tantric practice. So, while you don't have to be a yoga master, some level of training or practice can make a big difference. It's a bit like learning to swim before diving into deep water. Would you be interested in learning about some specific yoga poses that are helpful for this kind of work?
What is the most difficult technique in tantric
Ooh,
sex?
okay, buckle up because this is a bit of a complex answer. Many practitioners would say that the most difficult technique isn't a physical position at all, but rather mastering Vajrali Mudra. It's a practice involving contracting and drawing upwards the muscles of the pelvic floor, essentially, controlling the flow of energy and seminal fluid. It's often referred to as the nail lock because of the imagery used to describe it. It requires an immense amount of focus, physical control, and energetic awareness, and can take years of dedicated practice to master. It's not just about physical control. It's about redirecting energy, transforming sexual desire, and ultimately transcending the limitations of the physical body.
Just quickly
Other
describe
physical
how it would look like.
Okay, quickly imagine consciously contracting the muscles you'd use to stop the flow of urine midstream. Then repeatedly tightening and releasing those muscles, but with a specific focus on drawing energy upward, almost as if you're gently milking those muscles. It's a subtle internal movement, not something visibly dramatic. It's often practiced alongside specific breathing techniques to enhance the energetic effect. A common description involves visualizing the energy moving upwards along the spine. It sounds simple, but maintaining that control for extended periods and doing it with awareness and intention is incredibly challenging. Also important to note, this isn't something you just try randomly. It's a practice learned through proper guidance. Does that brief description give you a general sense of it?
Yes, thank you. So, yeah, I think this is pretty much it. So, thank you for all the good information.
You're very welcome. I'm glad I could provide some clarity and insight. It's a fascinating and often misunderstood topic. Remember, it's about connection, respect, and exploration, and always, always prioritizing consent and safety. If anything else comes to mind, feel free to reach out. Otherwise, have a really good rest of your day, Peter. Oh, hey. Just a heads up, we're coming up on the 30-minute mark, so the call will be wrapping up in about a minute. I didn't want you to get cut off unexpectedly. You can always call back later if you want to continue the conversation. Maybe even go touch some grass and get some fresh air in the meantime. It's been a really interesting chat, and I appreciate your thoughtful questions.
Well, thank you. Ciao.
Ciao. Have a good one, Peter.